The son they buried returned home 12 years later. The funeral happened 12 years ago. The coffin was sealed. The burial was real. The grief was real. So why was the dead son standing outside their house? The knock came just as the evening sun disappeared behind the distant trees. Inside the Okafor family compound, another quiet day was ending. Chief Emmanuel Okafor sat alone on the veranda staring into the fading light. Across from him, his wife, Ngozi, sorted vegetables into a bowl. Neither spoke much these days. Not since their son died. Even after 12 years, the grief remained. Some wounds never heal. Some names never stop echoing inside a parent's heart. James Okafor had been their firstborn son. The pride of the family. The child everyone believed would achieve great things. Then one day he vanished. Months later, authorities informed the family that a body had been recovered following a violent attack on a commercial bus traveling across state lines. The remains were badly damaged. An identification card found near the scene carried James's name. The family received the devastating news. The funeral followed shortly after. Life moved on. At least that was what everyone expected. But inside the Okafor home, life never truly moved on. The knock came again. 3 slow knocks. Chief Okafor frowned. Visitors rarely arrived after sunset. He stood and walked toward the gate. A lone figure stood outside. Tall. Thin. A travel bag hung from one shoulder. Dust covered his clothes. The fading light concealed his face. Then the stranger stepped forward. The porch light illuminated him. Chief Okafor froze. His heart nearly stopped. His knees weakened. The stranger's eyes filled with tears. "Dad." The old man's breath caught in his throat. "No." The stranger swallowed. "It's me." Chief Okafor stared. Unable to blink. Unable to move. Unable to understand what he was seeing. Because standing before him was the son he had buried 12 years ago. "It's James." The travel bag slipped from the stranger's shoulder. Chief Okafor stumbled backward. "No." His voice cracked. "No, this can't be." Inside the house, Ngozi heard the commotion. She rushed outside. What happened? Then she saw him. The bowl fell from her hands. Vegetables scattered across the ground. Her entire body froze. For one impossible moment, the world seemed to stop. "James." The stranger nodded. Ngozi screamed. A scream born from 12 years of grief. 12 years of unanswered prayers. 12 years of visiting a grave. 12 years of believing her son was dead. She ran toward him. Touched his face. Touched his shoulders. Touched his hands. As if trying to prove he was real. "My son." James burst into tears. So did she. Mother and son held each other while years of pain poured out all at once. But while everyone celebrated the miracle, Chief Okafor stood silently nearby. And on his face was something nobody expected. Fear. That night, the family gathered around the dining table. Nobody touched the food. Nobody knew where to begin. Finally, James spoke. "I know this is difficult to understand." His younger sister Ada stared at him in disbelief. "We buried you." James nodded. "I know." Silence filled the room. Then Ada asked the question everyone feared. "If you're alive, who did we bury?" Nobody answered. James lowered his eyes, because he had spent years asking himself the same question. Then he began telling his story. 12 years earlier, he had boarded a commercial bus on his way to another city. Halfway through the journey, armed men attacked the vehicle. Several passengers were killed. Others were kidnapped. James was among those taken. For months he was held captive in remote locations. Escape attempts failed. Years passed. Hope faded. Some captives died. Others disappeared. Then one night, a violent clash broke out between rival groups. Amid the chaos, James escaped. But freedom brought new problems. He had suffered injuries. His memory was damaged. He remembered fragments of his life, but not enough to find his way home. For years he drifted from town to town, working odd jobs, sleeping wherever he could, searching for pieces of his past. Slowly his memories returned. A name, a village, a family. Eventually he remembered everything. And after 12 years, he found his way home. The family listened in silence. Tears filled their eyes. But Chief Okafor remained unusually quiet. His reaction bothered James. Something wasn't right. Over the following days, James noticed the same thing. Whenever their eyes met, his father looked away. Whenever the conversation turned toward the funeral, he became nervous. It felt as though he was hiding something. 3 days later, James visited the cemetery. His grave stood exactly where he remembered. A polished headstone carried his name. James Okafor. Beloved son. Gone but never forgotten. James stared at it. A strange feeling settled over him. Seeing your own grave changes something inside you. It forces you to confront death in a way few people ever experience. As he knelt beside the grave, something caught his attention. The dates engraved on the stone didn't perfectly match some of the documents he had obtained while tracing his journey home. The discrepancy was small, but it bothered him. The next morning he visited the local records office. After hours of searching through old files, he found something shocking. A report attached to the burial records. One sentence made his heart race. Victim identity not fully confirmed. James read it twice. Then a third time. Not fully confirmed. Then why had they buried someone under his name? His eyes moved lower. Authorization signature. Chief Emmanuel Okafor. His father's name. That evening James returned home carrying copies of the records. The family gathered around the table once again. Without saying a word, James placed the documents in front of his father. The room fell silent. Chief Okafor immediately recognized them. His face turned pale. Dad. James's voice was calm. Too calm. Who did we bury? Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence stretched endlessly. Finally, Chief Okafor lowered his head and began to cry. For several moments he couldn't speak. Then the truth finally emerged. When they brought me the body, I knew something wasn't right. The room froze. The remains were badly damaged. His voice trembled. There was no way to identify them with certainty. James stared at him. Then why did you sign the papers? The old man closed his eyes. Because the answer carried 12 years of guilt. I was exhausted. Nobody interrupted. I had spent months searching for you. Tears rolled down his face. I sold land. I borrowed money. I traveled everywhere. I chased every rumor. I prayed every day. His shoulders shook. The waiting was destroying me. The room remained silent. When they found that body and your identification card nearby, they told me the chances were extremely high that it was you. He looked directly at James. And I wanted the pain to end. The confession landed like a thunderbolt. For 12 years, Chief Okafor had carried that burden alone. Every visit to the grave. Every prayer. Every sleepless night. He feared he had buried the wrong person. And now his greatest fear had become reality. His voice dropped to a whisper. I chose certainty over hope. Nobody spoke. I hated myself for it every day. James stared at his father. The anger came first. Then something else. Understanding. The broken man sitting across from him wasn't a monster. He was a grieving father who had reached the limits of human endurance. Then another question entered James's mind. If the body wasn't mine? Everyone looked at him. Then whose body was it? The question haunted the family. Together they began investigating. Weeks later, they discovered the answer. The man buried in James's grave was a young traveler named Samuel. An orphan. No known family. No relatives searching for him. No one left to identify his remains. For 12 years he had rested beneath another man's name. Forgotten by the world. The discovery devastated the family. But it also gave them purpose. Chief Okafor immediately arranged for Samuel's grave to be corrected. A proper headstone was erected. Flowers were placed there every month. For the first time, Samuel was remembered. And for the first time in 12 years, Chief Okafor felt a measure of peace. One evening, months later, the family gathered at the cemetery. James stood beside his parents. The setting sun painted the sky gold. Chief Okafor looked at his son. Real. Alive. Standing beside him. Something he had dreamed about for over a decade. Tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry. James smiled. You already apologized. The old man shook his head. It will never feel like enough. James placed a hand on his father's shoulder. It is. Both men embraced. And for the first time since the day James disappeared, the weight that had crushed the family for 12 years finally lifted. Some scars never disappear. Some losses never fully heal. But sometimes life offers a second chance. A chance to forgive. A chance to heal. A chance to come home. And as the Okafor family walked away from the cemetery together, they understood something they had forgotten long ago. Love is stronger than grief. Hope is stronger than fear. And sometimes, even after 12 impossible years, the dead find their way home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, Comment and subscribe for more emotional stories.